in Podcast Detroit, recording live. Prepare yourself for a hoppy drive. If you're chilling at home, pop that growler and just kick back for the next 2 hours. It's the end of the week, so here's to the weekend. It's Better on Draft with Rob, Matt, Nick, and Ken.
Better on Draft podcast is brought to you by North Center Brewing. That's right. Head on over to North Center Road, just south of Baseline in Northville, Michigan, and get your beer on with a great selection. Cody and Kevin do great there. And if you see Kevin over there, make sure to challenge him in some shuffleboard. That's right. North Center Brewing is our sponsor. They're located on North Center Road, just south of Baseline. Better on Draft is also brought to you by Zatuna Liquor. Head on over to Zatuna Liquor over on Rochester Road, just south of M59 in Rochester Hills. Go say hi to Jack. Get everything that you need from beer, liquor, wine, and snacks, as well as, of course, Matt's favorite cigars, It's a Boys. That's right, Zatuna Liquor over at Rochester Road, just south of M59. Better on Draft is also brought to you by T-Shirts.Beer. That's right, guys. If you are a brewery, bar, or need any type of apparel, head on over to T-Shirts.Beer. They got you covered from glassware to shirts to hats, even those Michigan beer box hoodies that we all love. That's right, T-Shirts.Beer is going to be your place for swag and apparel.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, episode 175, Better on Draft podcast. We are live, not in studio, but we are here in Comstock Park, Michigan, chatting with the folks over at Perrin for No Rules Day. With me, we have Rob. What's going on?
I'm marking this shit 8 like a motherfucker.
Nick, how you doing?
After hearing that, I'm doing a lot better. 8 like a motherfucker?
8 like a motherfucker.
Well, you hear Matt here.
I'm still confused.
Well, it's because it's too bright in here that you're wearing your
sunglasses at
might
night.
as well add to the ambiance.
All right, and we also have two great employees from Perrin Brewing. We'll start over here. Why don't you introduce yourself and what you do here?
John Stewart. I'm the GM here, Perrin Brewing Company.
GM at the tap house or the brewery part?
Yep, the brewery, both kind of overseeing the front, the Comstock location.
Okay.
Right on.
And
I'm Connor. I'm the logistics manager here, doing trucks and scheduling production.
So today's like a big day for you because obviously it's a giant release. You guys aren't distroing anymore, so you don't have to, distroing no rules anymore.
Package. We still send out draft.
You still send, that's correct, because there's a brewery, or not a brewery, but a tap house near us that's doing a 5-year vert.
Yes.
No rules. Is that Herman's?
That is Herman's Old Town Grill. They were doing 5 years, 2015 through 2019. $35 for a ticket will get you a 5-ounce pour for each.
Shit, we don't even have 15 anymore.
It was very surprising because that happens to be the place where I host trivia, and the manager said, "Hey, I got this keg downstairs. I'm not sure when I should go ahead and put this out. What do you think?" And I said, "Well, a keg of what?" And he said, "Oh, it's a keg of no rules." I said, "Well, what year? Is it 27 this year's?" Because at that time it was last year when he brought it up. And I said, I was like, you couldn't have got 2018 already? And he said, no, it's a much older one. So we go down to the basement and we see this Sixtel just sitting down there, and I'm like, that says 2015 on it. Why is this still here? You should have. This should have been gone by now. So I gave him the idea, and I said, hey, you should do an event, because he had the 2015, a 16, and a 17 that was down there, and I said, hey, do an event and let everybody just try them all. So he was originally going to do it last year, but then he said, it's going to be April pretty soon, so I'll just wait. And so I think it's going to be pretty interesting. So
That's like the perfect
I
scenario.
kind of want to bring that into the first question, because obviously you guys are releasing bottles of previous years, no rules, this year. Which years do you have?
We have 16, 17, 18, and 19.
So you can do a 4-year vert just by showing up today and
yes, you can.
And buying that. What is your personal opinion in regards to aging beers in a cellar, or do you believe that beer is meant to be drank right away, or buy 2, drink 1, save 1? What's your
probably the last. I was always a big proponent of drinking early. I mean, beer is made to be drank. That's why we do it
early and often.
So, cellaring was never really a thing for me until we started doing no rules, and I saved some and kind of tested it out. When I I was here for the 15 launch, and I had a case and like cracked it open every 6 months, and it does definitely change. So my personal opinion is at minimum buy 2, so you can drink one right away, and then you can age one for however long you want, do a vertical or whatever. But I really enjoyed the process of drinking one every 6 months because it changes just in that period of time.
Because definitely for last year, the Scotch one changed on me greatly.
Oh, yeah.
Because when I ended up buying 4, had one, I had trouble enjoying it because the Scotch was so forward in the beginning that when the sweetness kicked in, it wasn't what I wanted because I was so much enjoying the Scotch. But then 8 months later, I had it, and everything was so even on that beer that I was like, okay, this where it is right now, this is where I want it to be.
What about you?
Yeah, it's when we release it, it's such a big, flavorful beer with so many flavors. We try to get the balance of everything. So, like, when it's fresh, I try to tell people the goal when we're blending everything is to get the coconut, the cinnamon, the barrel, everything to try to nothing to overpower. And then that's the interesting part because as you age it, some of those flavors come to the forefront. Some of them will kind of like mellow. Like, I've noticed that the cinnamon character is usually strong when it's young, and then it'll kind of dissipate a little bit, and you'll get a little bit more of the barrel and the maple, and the coconut will kind of come through and round it off. So I'm the same way where, I've always, beer's liquid bread. Why would you age bread? Drink it quickly. It's not.
Make croutons.
Exactly. And this beer proves that theory wrong because it's so interesting to watch all those flavors that we try to balance kind of come forward. And then people who are really big fans of like, oh, I love the cinnamon or I love the coconut aspect, they can appreciate it during those different times as it kind of matures.
Now, go on, Matt.
I was going to say, what's the genesis of both the recipe, the label of No Rules? Like, whose brainchild was that, and how did that come to be?
It was really us screaming at each other across the brewery. There's no rules here, and like, I don't know, there's no rules here. And it's like, you know what? That'd be an awesome beer. We should make a no rules beer. And it was like, well, what would it be? And it's like, oh, well, this isn't Vietnam. There's rules here. Well, let's make a Vietnamese porter. So it's like, what would the beer in Vietnam be like? And then it's like, well, you know what? I think it would probably have some coconut and maybe some cinnamon and some yeah, it should be 15% alcohol too. And so we kind of like back constructed as we were making it, and it was really interesting because each department got really excited about it. So it's a really detailed, like a lot of times you make a beer and it's like, okay, this is very complicated hot side and we have to go through certain mash procedures, and then it kind of is normal going through the process. This product is really unique hot side. It's a really unique way of how we mash in, how we create the high sugar. Cold side when we're doing the fermentation to get our house yeast to actually ferment up to 15% alcohol. So each department kind of sat around as we were coming up with this beer and going, it would be really cool, we should do this. And so we got that off the brewers, we got it out of the cellarmen, barrel aging, like how are we going to age it, when do we add the certain spices at different times. So some are pre and post barrel, and then once we rack it out of barrel, how are we handling it. So getting everybody excited about it throughout the whole process, I think, is kind of what created such a special thing. Was everybody just was like, this sounds fun. Yeah.
Now, how has No Rules changed from inception to where it is now?
From like the party and the release day, I think it's kind of the first year, I'll actually, for me at least, it was a little bit surprising to kind of like see, like I don't think personally I would have ever anticipated like people camping out overnight. Dude, so when we first did like the release, I'm like, oh my God, there's people in the parking lot. Like, what the hell's going on? Like, is everything okay? And then all of a sudden it kind of built and became kind of a bigger and bigger thing. So, even like last night was out talking to people and thanking everybody because it still blows my mind that it's turned into what it is. And people ask me like, well, how did that happen? And honestly, I have no idea. Like, it's just kind of
someone decided to take it upon themselves to stand in front of the front door the night before, and just kind of grew from there, huh?
Yep. I wanted to be the first one in line, and we wanted to have this be the one release where there's no rules to it, where every other release we do bottle limits and we make sure everybody gets their fair share, and we're very, specific about, and we're like, what would be awesome for this product, and just the theme and the feel of the beer of like kind of the chaoticness a little bit is let's not have those traditional rules and let's let's just make it a fun event. Like, the only way that you are guaranteed beer is being the first person in line. So I actually came up. We had a guy 24 hours in advance that came, and I shook his hands. I said, "Congratulations, you're the only person that's actually guaranteed beer today." And it's so it was it's got a fun way of doing it, and I think some people hate that, some people love it because it's a little bit of a different aspect. And for us, it's created that. I think to me, it's actually part of the event. It's kind of entwined that controlled chaos a little bit.
Yeah, I went up to order lunch at 11 yesterday, and then one of the servers was asking where does the line start and whatnot, and I was like, well, it starts in the back, but I mean, people probably won't be here till like 6. She goes, that guy's here. And I look over, and there's a guy dressed as Walter Skoback. I was like, no fucking way.
Lindsay showed me the picture this morning. It's amazing.
I was like, this guy's here 24 hours in advance, and I started talking to him. He goes, I just really wanted that bowling ball.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that is some
and this is the
dedication.
this is the guy that's first in line.
First in line,
right?
yeah.
Rob, you were the first one here from the show, and you were the one that pointed it out. That this guy looks exactly like Walter.
I mean, it's a pretty damn good. I mean, obviously he doesn't have like the John Goodman fat, but I mean, other than that, I mean,
so he's going to be driving on Shabbos. Then.
I mean, yeah, probably. But I mean, the goatee, the beard, I mean, shirt, vest, short. I mean, everything.
The military haircut too.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Now, one of the things I wanted to ask was that obviously this is the 5th year that you guys have put on No Rules. This being, I believe, the 2nd year that there has been no bottle distribution. Can you talk about what the process was in deciding that there would be no distribution?
For us, I think it was with a brand this special, we wanted to bring it in-house, have a little bit more control, and from a selfish standpoint, getting to interact with everybody that comes here is just absolutely amazing. Shaking everyone's hand, getting the experience. Like when we load it on a truck and that beer goes out, it's nice. We do that with all the other product. Mm-hmm. This, we get to talk to people. I mean, one of the guys out in line was like, I got to tell you, yesterday at work sucked because I was just going, oh my God, No Rules release is coming up. No Rules. And he goes, it was the longest day of my life, and he goes, I look forward to this so much. And you don't get to experience that with other beers. So like I tell all of the production guys, enjoy tomorrow, because you'll actually get to see the enjoyment. And from a brewer to have that connection and to be able to talk with people that are that excited about your product is absolutely freaking amazing. I mean, people get so geeked out. And to me, it's like it's beyond amazing to get that interaction.
I couldn't agree more. We were outside with the line drinking with some of the guys last night, and we had people in from what the furthest was Florida we know of right now.
Yeah.
Someone came up from Florida just to get beer.
Wow.
So I mean, that's amazing to sit there and talk to him, and he's complimenting you on something that you made with your hands, and just a great feeling talking with everybody in line and all the commitment that they have and the passion for product that we made.
Now, being part of Canarchy, are you guys able to send some No Rules down to like Florida, Colorado, like all these other breweries that are within your distribution footprint of like ownership?
For some of the draft, like some of the tap, we'll do like a special, like when they're everybody's sending in their kind of special beer, we can send them like a sixtel or something like that. For
because you guys had High Lie. Well, the High Lie was brewed here the first time you guys had High Lie up.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I was just curious because obviously Cigar City you can get now in Michigan, so it's not too crazy to find it. But that was definitely a beer that a lot of people seek when people go to Florida. Prior to its distribution here in Michigan, and since it's come to Michigan, to be quite frank, I think it's kind of died down. Like the ability to get it has killed the want for it. Kind of like what we saw with Ballast Point a couple years back. Like everyone was harping on Sculpin and everyone was drinking it, and we saw it even before with Fat Tire coming in, or New Belgium specific, Fat Tire specific to New Belgium. Do you guys worry about that in regards to growing your distribution footprint, that the want of your beer will kind of dissipate once the availability comes through?
I think so. I think that was part of bringing it back in-house, was to kind of support the local, not distribute it across the country. So it's like we, literally it's right out of our backyard that we're selling it. So I think that kind of keeps the demand. And we know, like you mentioned, the Michigan drinker is such a loyal drinker. So a lot of these breweries come in, and there's a
I would say loyal to Michigan, not necessarily
yes.
loyal.
Yes. No, absolutely. That's what I mean. They're Michigan first, so it's we've noticed, that's what we want to support. That's kind of that's kind of been our thought process is we've actually kind of pulled back to support just the Michigan market. So with our distribution, it's, Michigan first and support the Midwest and not really have that crazy expansion plan for Perrin to, ship across the country right now because we want that home base of people.
So what's the brew that's in your fridge right now? You go home after a long day, you crack open a beer. What's that beer that's in your fridge right now?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I obviously have to ask you because I've never seen your fridge. So
I think for like the normal go-to, my secret pleasure is just like German lagers and we're past the Oktoberfest time, but that was my go-to. Just a really nice clean lager when you go home is my secret drinking beer.
What about you?
Might sound weird, but mine's our beer. And
that's
Little
fine
Grizz.
to be your beer.
Oh, yeah.
Nice, light, sessionable, barrel-aged brown that we have. Love barrel-aged beer, love malty, dark beer, so it's right up my alley at like 6%. I can have a couple, so I never just drink one beer.
That's I kind of want to bring that into a different conversation because we talked about how there's the 5-year vert of 5 ounces, which is 25 ounces of no rules.
Yeah.
And at 15%, that's about 10 drinks. In regards to a ticket.
Man, you're doing really good math early.
He had his coffee this morning.
My ABV to drink calculation has gotten so strong.
Is this
just
like
because
Kevin DePie's situation?
I've made more mistakes than I care to admit, which is why I'm always when I'm on Untapped, it's because the ABV is not labeled at the bar that I'm at or the restaurant, and I need to know what I'm drinking because I need to know where my limit is, so that if I'm driving home or I need to drive home, then I know, okay, I can have this many drinks in this much time before, so I don't get,
Albert Einstein over here.
You don't do that, though? No. I know you walk a lot or ride your bike a lot to the bars,
but I also don't drink big enough beers to where I need to.
Well, and that kind of goes to the
That's
conversation that Ange used to bring up and that we brought up a few times, that is selling these big beers in smaller packaging. Because if you look at a lot of barrel-aged beers, a lot of them come in 750s or 25 ounce.
Completely stealing my question right now.
Sorry. But, you guys have sold no rules in 12-ounce bottles before. When you guys are selling today, is it all in 750s or?
It's all in 22.
22, sorry.
So, yeah, we get a lot of questions on why we don't do the 12-ounce. It's pretty simple. We don't have that line anymore. Okay. We can only bottle 22-ounce bottles.
What about cans, though?
The 15% will actually eat the can lining.
Oh, really?
Yep. It'll go through the can lining.
Hell?
We actually...
I'm assuming you've done it before. And
so, yeah, funny story.
I am interested because I did not know this.
We have crowlers. So we have our own little special tap thing in our barrel room. No Rules was on tap, and we didn't have any cups, so we grabbed a crowler, filled it up with No Rules. We were drinking that while we were hanging out. 15 minutes later, we go back to have some more, and you can pick the lining out of the liquid.
Oh,
it was disgusting.
So what does that do to my stomach then?
Oh, you're fine. I mean,
and they do offer alternative linings for like very high ABV, very acidic pHs and stuff like that in certain circumstances. But your traditional beer
I was going to say, because I'm racking my head trying to figure out what barrel-aged beers, because I've seen big beers in cans before. Obviously, I've drank plenty of them. But here I am just trying to rack my brain trying to think. But now that you mentioned that you can do different type of cans in regards to...
But I mean, at that point, when does it become economical to sell? Unless they're going to be doing it in an event such as...
I always believed that people would pay a premium for a smaller bottle to get one of as opposed to a 22. And it's the whole one single versus six-pack theory. You can mark up a single 10-15% based on 1/6 of the six-pack price and easily sell more singles than you would six-packs, simply because people would be more apt to trying a beer, especially at what's the price point for No Rules today, just the basic one?
I believe 19 is at $16.99 a bottle.
That's not too bad in regards to beers, but a lot of these bigger beers, I don't want to go and drop $20 some odd on a bottle if I don't like it.
And also, I mean, how many people are drinking a 24-ounce to completion?
Well, by themselves?
Me.
Okay, fine.
I mean, my birthday party a couple of years ago was literally one bottle of Big Grizz.
But was it just you, or was it?
It was just me.
Oh, wow.
I was feeling toasty after that
all
one.
of a sudden, I feel bad
because I was drinking. It was my birthday's in July, so it was outdoors. I'm drinking this huge beer.
Well, my thought
it kicked my ass.
The shareability. If Angel always talk about 8-ounce cans. I mean, if you're going to pour, you're not going to pour on No Rules into a 12-ounce vessel.
Right.
You're going to pour it in, 8 ounces probably at the bar here?
Yep.
So if you have an 8-ounce can, it goes into an 8-ounce. It's a single serve. And that way you can sell 3 of them for the same amount as a 24, and you increase your distribution threefold. And then maybe you make them look like the
We're not
the
too concerned
balls?
about distribution anymore.
2 years running, and the people are still they're coming here.
And that's the thing is, I don't think it's necessarily a distribution, but I think giving the opportunity to purchase, it might cannibalize itself in regards to the fact that you're selling smaller portions and therefore not selling bottles because people have to buy bottles as opposed to having the option to buy smaller. But in the same sense, I think, like, just me personally, like, I would be more apt to trying an 8-ounce of that for, $8, $1 an ounce, without any qualms, knowing full well if I don't like it, well, that's pretty much what I would have spent at a bar for an 8-ounce pour.
Right.
So just thinking of those kinds of things, is there, like, a beer, not necessarily No Rules or Perrin or Canarchy, but is there a beer that you've always, like, wanted to try but you just don't because it's either too expensive or too big or the price point's too crazy? Like, because everyone talks about, like, utopias. That's kind of like, especially prior to the huge craft beer industry that we've come into, like, utopias are still a thing that people seek out and look for, and those are $140 a bottle, something like that.
$240.
Yeah, $240.
Yeah, it's $180. It's $180 wholesale.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you don't even have to go that high because, I mean, trying to get a bottle of Bottle Logic's Fundamental Observation, to get that here, it runs you about $50 plus some for shipping, for somebody to ship it from California. I mean, it's a beer that I've wanted to try, but to have to spend $50+ for...
And your wife sees your checking account, right?
No, she does not.
No.
We do have a joint account, but she does not see my account.
She doesn't see the allowance account.
Hi, Dita, by the way.
Good thing we're not live. I can cut that out for a price.
Yeah.
No, that's all right. That's all right. But I mean, to get that bottle, which is basically the size of a bottle of Bourbon County, for $45. I want to try it, but I don't know if I want to put that much money
you
to it.
want to spend the money
Right.
for it.
Yeah, I would definitely say for me personally, it's cost first. I'm not too concerned with the size. I can either drink it myself or get it with friends, but the cost is a factor. But also being in the industry, we're around so much stuff that if there's a beer that I really want to try, I kind of assume somewhere I'm going to be able to find it on draft and I can get a sample. I mean, we travel a lot to CBC and I go to orchestrated beer conferences, so I'm out West Coast, Colorado. There's usually a good scene where you can usually find that beer on tap somewhere. That's usually the route I go.
In regards to peers going to CBC, GABF, etc., what do other brewers typically get when they stop by your tent? Like, are they going for the IPA? Are they going for the lager? Are they going for, like...
What I've found is they either go for, like, No Rules, something that they haven't had before.
Okay.
Or they go to just a very basic, clean style. Just kind of going traditional. It seems like that's how other breweries kind of mark you up, so to speak, on how you create, like, a Pilsner is a really good example of, if you have a Pilsner, a bunch of brewers are going to try it to see how you did with it.
Is that how you attend these events? Do you go for the Pilsner or the heavy-duty beer?
I tend to go for the heavy-duty first, and if I've had it, then, I go for a classic style, just kind of see how it's going.
What about you?
I go for the lighter. I think that the similar, because there's so many big beers out there. There's nothing worse than getting a massive beer that's not that good, and you got to try to. Being in the industry too, it's always I try to avoid to talk to a brewer, and then you're like dumping the beer kind of a thing. So you always feel obliged to finish. So I'm not going to jump into that big beer without kind of knowing. So you walk up and say, "Well, you got a Pilsner on. Let me try it." And it's like, okay, that's really clean, solid. This guy's a technical brewer. Now I'm willing to take that risk of taking the pint. I'm not going to have to suck something down that's like, oh my god, this is chalk in a glass that I got to kind of chug through. So it's a way to test the waters a little bit before you dive in.
It's almost a way to like you said, test the brewer, see if they really know how to do the basic style, your Pilsner. anything that's on the lighter end of the spectrum, then that's where you kind of take the risk and go to the bigger one.
Absolutely. Yep.
Huh. What's your guys' opinion on New England IPAs?
There's some chalk art that's downstairs if you want to go take a look at it.
I'm sure we'll be taking a look at it later.
It's interesting because I think as a brewer, I always try to take the philosophy of trying to make a good style, whether I'm a big fan of drinking it or not. So I think there's a lot of things with New England's that are really fascinating just from the production standpoint, and some of the getting into my QC background, just the flavor stability, not just the colloidal stability of a beer as it's sitting on the shelf and whether or not it's hazy, but what are these different hop components oxidizing into. So it's kind of you start to develop some really interesting compounds when you're extracting different things from hops that are normally flashed off at different parts of a boil and you normally don't see in a fermentation, and then they'll start to oxidize, and it's like, wow, this is like, I've never experienced this crazy off flavor. So from just the technical science standpoint of how do you produce it, how do you go through the stability portion of it and stuff like that, personally myself, I don't know that I would drink a lot of that style, but I can definitely geek out on what people are doing, and I like the fact that it's pushing a lot of the research. You go to a lot of these conferences, whether it's the CBC, and it's what are the effects of like a bio-hop transformation during fermentation, and what are the different yeast, and so it's pushing the industry in an exciting way as people are researching and we're learning more, which is giving us more tools in our tool bag where we can actually use some of those maybe hop techniques to get a certain flavor, but it's not in a New England style beer, but we want to have a softer, more round bitterness maybe, but we're not necessarily looking for the hazy portion. But then finding out that some of the starches that are in solution actually make those flavor compounds a little bit more stable. So it's just sorry, getting on the geek thing, but it's
that's the whole point of the show.
Yeah.
Because it's not like we do our best not to be too uppity about anything, like too snobbery, just we enjoy beer, we like talking beer, so when people get passionate and talk about beer, it makes our job easier because then we don't have to talk.
Very cool.
I mean, obviously now New England IPA has a category, officially has a category, but there's always this talk that it's a fad. It's a phase. It's just going to go away.
Like the Brutes?
Exactly. What?
The words right out of your mouth.
Right. I mean, do you think it's here to stay?
I think it'll always be here now. I mean, it is an official category. I don't know if it'll stay, the popularity will stay as high as it is, but I don't think it's going to go away. I mean, the East Coast has been doing it for years. And then it's been made popular in Michigan by M43. Mm-hmm. But
I've never heard of that beer. M43.
It's not bad. They just did a strawberry version too.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. It's obviously been around for years. I think it'll be around for a lot more.
Mm-hmm. So what else is going on at Perrin outside of No Rules? I know we're here for No Rules Day, but talk to us about just general new things both in the market and here in the tap room.
Well, the market, this is the first year we've done our side hustle series. So every other month we're coming out with a new one-off that is seeing distribution. So it started with technically Kingdom of Tonga, which is our vanilla porter, back in November, December. And then it ran into Carrot Cake, which went over really, really well.
That sounds really good.
It was amazing. John did a great job just taking Carrot Cake and deconstructing it and making it into liquid form. And then our most recent one is Harden the Hop Up, which was actually an old pub beer that we made that people wanted back. So we said, all right, well, let's do it, and let's do it a little bit bigger, get it out in distribution. And it's a New Zealand-Australian double IPA.
Oh, what?
And then this next one coming up in June will be a Kivik. So like a Nordic IPA called Kviken It Real.
Okay.
Nice.
And now you guys are doing seltzers.
We are, yep, Clear Coast.
So how did that come about? And was it just everyone else is doing it, so we're going to hop on it, or?
It wasn't so... Yes and no. So we are a part of Canarchy, and we're friends with Oscar Blues, and we heard they were doing Wild Basin, which is their boozy water, and we said, why the fuck can't we try it? And so we started doing it, and it took us quite a few months to figure out what or how to do it and do it right. And we actually didn't call it Clear Coast at the time. It was called Secret Stuff because we didn't tell anybody that we were making it. Sales team didn't know or anything. Kind of figured it out, put it on draft as Secret Stuff, ran out in a weekend. We just like, all right, well, fuck, we can do this. Yeah. And then we went full scale, named it Clear Coast, got the 3 flavors, and I think that was the fastest inception to distribution on a product that we've ever done.
Absolutely.
Does that say, Matt, because the seltzer's your jam.
I'm a fan.
You are a huge fan of this.
Does that require a different license?
Yes and no. So there is an FMB license.
Okay.
So if you're doing a traditional just sugar brew, you need an FMB license. We're actually using a malt base to make it different, so we fall under our current license.
Okay, so it doesn't require the wine/cider maker's license? Oh.
Yeah. Wow. Again, depending on how you're making it, because there's a lot of different ways to go about. You can use the malt base, and then you can just do a sugar, water, and yeast. And then if you have a distillation license, there's actually people that are taking like a neutral spirit, adding that back with water and mixing it. So when you talk about the seltzers or the FMB, there's actually quite a few pathways you can take to get to that.
What's your thought on the seltzers? Because that's also kind of a new fad/trend. The ready-to-drink cocktails are just the low-calorie. Do you see those as having maybe a brewery competition, kind of like, with the New England's now carving a role in the BJCP book? Well, do you see seltzers making that similar push, where breweries can kind of measure one another against their seltzers like they do their New Englands or Pilsners?
Seltzer, I think, has a category because it would fall under flavored malt beverage.
The F&B category, yep.
Yeah, so I maybe it might branch off kind of like how New England IPA is branched off from the IPA category into its own.
But that doesn't also include like Alka-Pops that we were talking about?
Yeah, Alka-Pops. It doesn't include anything that's... what's the term? Ciders or meads or anything like that. It's simply just the FMB category. So, I mean, if they start branching out, because, I mean, White Claw and Truly have kind of exploded in regards to the hard seltzer industry to allow, more people to make it without taking a gamble. Kind of one of the big things was that hard root beer, Not Your Father's root beer that came out. That was a gamble. I don't think anybody really knew how good it was going to be in regards to, taking off, but that was...
Pabst.
Pabst, I think that did that. That's still a huge... undertaking to do, because if that doesn't sell, but that was a beer made by a major company that people were looking for and searching for because everybody wanted to try it. Now, in regards to the seltzer water, like I had it at the Winter Beer Fest, and were you at the Winter Beer Fest?
I was, yes.
Okay, I'm pretty sure you poured me the glass via the water fountain.
The bubbler.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
So there's a live video of you on Better on Draft of you pouring me, and it blew my mind how amazingly delicious it was. And the first thing that I wanted to do with it is I wanted to mix it with gin.
Oh,
because, I mean, alcohol.
The cocktail options are limitless.
Do you guys, I can't see too far. It doesn't look like it. You guys don't have a liquor license here, correct?
We do not.
No.
Okay. Because I think that'd probably be a huge... Obviously, do a lot of your bars, like local that sell Clear Coast, do they try to make cocktails with it? And
we actually had a local bar down the street here, they replaced their tonic water or whatever with Clear Coast. So all of their... Anything tropical flavored, I should say, now has like 2 ounces of mango guava Clear Coast into it.
Does that get barreled? Like kegged, rather?
It is kegged. Yeah, we have it on draft.
Oh, man. Well, I know what I'm going to start with this one.
I know I'm going to be diving a little bit into the no rules. I know we got about 8 to 10 minutes left before we got to let you guys go. What are the variants for this year's no rules, and how do you decide on variants?
Yeah, go ahead.
Talk about bottles you get draft.
What's that?
Let's talk about the bottles if you want to talk about the draft.
Perfect.
The bottles, so we have a rum variant, which we did the last couple of years. Yep. That was a favorite. Scotch, unfortunately, went away. We have a Michigan maple syrup and a Roasters Milky Way coffee and a Bananas Foster.
Oh.
So, I mean, just the idea behind it is we had some extra brandy barrels from a beer that we had made, Perrin Reserve. And so we threw some no rules into it, and we had a brandy barrel-aged no rules, and we were just kind of like, well, what could we go with that to make that kind of interesting? And we were talking about just kind of someone had Bananas Foster that day or something, and like, all right, fuck yeah, that's all right. We're gonna do that one.
Just happened by a happenstance.
Yep. And then the rum, we tried to differentiate it from last year's, where last year's was very sweet, very coconut forward, and this year we added some more kind of that spiced rum character. So it has much more of a darker spiced rum notes awesome. To it, which is right up my alley because I love rum. And then the coffee, coffee variants are very popular, but we wanted to partner with a local coffee shop, and Roasters was one of them, and they had a very interesting blend called Milky Way. So we tried some of that and thought it would pair really, really well with the current No Rules.
Is there any nougat in that?
I don't think so.
This is stuff from the candy bar.
Oh, no.
Because I thought you were talking about actually like the Milky Way candy bars.
No, it's just their specialty roast.
Yep.
So,
and then the Michigan Maple, we wanted a version of No Rules that didn't have so much of that Terminato sweetness, but we still wanted to sweeten it with something. So we thought there was a Michigan or maple farm in Sparta that we got some from, so we back sweetened it with the maple syrup instead of the Terminato sugar.
Wow.
And then now the ones that are on draft, there's a few that are a little different.
Yep, we've got a blueberry coconut collab where Tim Matthews from Oscar Blues came out and visited. We actually are in the process of aging a smoked Marzen No Beer for Bobby collab that we have in the tank. And so while he was out, we wanted to do a collab special keg. Like last year, Wayne Wambles from Cigar City came out and he spiced the keg up for us. So we've got Walter, it's a Vietnam Mexican a keg that has kind of some cinnamon and pepper flavor, and then we actually did a scorpion ghost pepper, one that's just got a little bit of heat to balance out the sweetness with too. So kind of when we're coming up with these variants, we look for flavors that resonate with each other, are trying to balance. So again, like even with the pepper one, the goal is to have enough warmth from the capsaicin, but not have it be burning you, and that sweetness to go through and kind of balance out. And those are rewards for people that come the day of. So they're single half barrel kegs that we've just had other brewers come up and say, hey, let's make a fun keg to reward the people that freeze their butt off standing outside for a day. So It's just for them, and people go crazy like, why can't we get that? It's like these guys have stayed outside and they it's thank you so much for coming kind of a thing. So that's what that kind of draft thought process is for that.
Yeah, it is a little chilly out there. It's a little better than last year. It was this cold last year plus rain and snow. So
at least the sun's shining.
This right now, at least the sun is shining.
Yep. So let's talk about the people. How many people are you guys expecting to walk through the doors today? Do you guys have any idea? I mean,
I have no fucking clue.
No. Let me re-ask it a different way. Last year, when you had No Rules Day, about how much did you guys sell or go through? Do you have any idea how many bottles that you might have?
Bottles I won't touch on, but we probably had about 500 people come through the line.
I think so.
Minimum.
Yeah.
Minimum.
And then we had, the pub was full all day. So we probably had over 1,000 people in and out of the doors throughout the day.
Wow.
All right. Well, we're going to have to let you go really, really soon. I got one more question, and we're going to play a fun little game with this question.
All right.
So on My Beer Collectibles, the beer that you have not sold yet is already for sale.
All right.
How's that possible?
So you can buy 2019 Perrin No Rules and all 4 variants on this website.
What's the price for them?
Now that's the game. I want you to guess the price for all 5 bottles. On this
Is it collective or individually?
Yeah. So we're talking
all 5 together. So No Rules,
119 and the 4 variants.
Yep. 119 and the 4 variants. There's a couple, but we're going to go with the most expensive just to be fun.
So full-on Infinity Gauntlet. All right.
So someone's
most
betting on getting on all
Price is Right rules.
What's that?
Yeah, are we going Price is Right rules?
Right rules?
Yeah, no, just closest.
$1.
We're going $1.20.
$1.20.
$1.20.
Okay. What about you?
And there's all 5, so 24. This is hard because I have no idea what that for secondary. Since I'll try to. You said $1.20. I'll say 200 for
200.
So there is one set going for 150.
Fuck.
Another set going for 235.
Damn.
That was where I was at too.
There is a single bottle going for 47 of just the regular.
Holy crap.
Jesus.
You've got a 4-year vert, which you guys are selling today for 120. another one that's a full set for $150, a full set for $190, and then a Banana Foster from today for $80, and a coffee and rum from today for $80.
Wow. I hope they're front of the line.
And what I want great if they were to go out right now and just say, you can't buy all variants at once.
Well, so there's
and
these
just
guys
see how many of those clothes kids.
These guys is what do you call it? Their usernames, their nicknames are in there. So you could go out there and be like, hey, if this is your nickname on a beer website, you won a prize, and the prize is,
and then kick them out of the back door.
Your prizes get out of here.
You get the back of the line.
Yeah. So the reason I ask, and I'll have you guys, we'll make sure you guys listen to it too, but definitely check out the latest drafting table episode, which we had Joel on, Mark, and Aaron was on. Talking about the secondary market for Malo and how somebody had sold a Nintendo Switch for one bottle of Malo. Oh. So, guys, it is 10:15. The doors open in 45 minutes. You guys are located in Comstock Park. Where exactly?
Alpine and 7 Mile.
Alpine and 7 Mile. You guys open 7 days a week?
We are.
Full kitchen?
Full kitchen.
Full kitchen, no alcohol, purely beer and hard seltzer water. Guys, thank you so much for joining. We appreciate it. We are going to end this. I think we're going to go head down and try to score us some beers real quick.